Hello and welcome to Birth of a New Dimension. My name is Aurora. I'm a galactic walk-in. I'm coming to you from the sunny field at the end of my driveway, so I apologize, but not really, for any of the beautiful background noises. Today you'll probably hear some birds chirping and the neighbor's chickens in the yard over there. It's a faux apology because this is part of the symphony within which we are all embedded as consciousness. That we are not lone consciousnesses swimming around in the kiddie pool of our own mind. We are not in a vacuum or a contextless realm. We are individuals that are in a context. And recognizing that is the necessary next stage of our individual and collective development. In exactly the same way that the invention of the cell membrane was a step up from just being an undifferentiated pile of goo and amino acids and various biochemicals, and allowed for greater sophistication and differentiation in the new format of having a one-celled animal. It has also been a huge leap in the level of consciousness to have a multicellular animal, which is, I presume, the body of my intended listening audience. I presume that we are all organic, multicellular, one-faced, two-armed, two-legged, generally shaped people on the surface of Earth. Even though I love to communicate with microbes and I love to communicate with trees or other, beings that are not shaped like in anthropomorphic form at all. With this broadcast, I mainly intend to, use my voice, my flapping of my moving mouth parts, to communicate with other human-shaped consciousnesses. And we are the members of the band, quote unquote. We are in the cosmic band, and we are here because we managed to be good enough musicians to use our instruments in the right way to continue to be in reality. In order to be in reality, and in order to be what we would classify as alive, having a living, organic, multicellular, biochemical bodysuit, it's necessary to conform to certain templates of consciousness, patterns of energy, and patterns of behavior. And none of this is like a type of slavery or loss of freedom. When I say conform, I know that that might not be an appealing word because it sounds a lot like in a fascist or totalitarian state where social conformity is expected. And I'll just, if this is the first broadcast you've ever listened to of mine, let me just lay it out there. And if you're a returning friend from a long time, thank you for listening, and I'm playing one of your favorite songs right now, but I'm not a transhumanist. That means I don't believe that you have to do anything to your body other than what you were born with in order to achieve your highest potential and your highest mental state or your highest state of consciousness. Like, you can climb that ladder just with your biological suit. You don't need to have extra microchips or nanobots or drink magic elixir or do anything other than utilize the raw materials of your body and the Earth presence herself, the planetary presence, and the sun, which is really our nearest envoy of the stellar network. So the planet is about our connection to molecular matter, and molecular matter is light that has been slowed down. I like to say it is light that has the privilege of going slower than what is called the speed of light. And I'll just briefly touch on that. I know that Einstein is much respected in this time and place, and he did give some very good clues about the way that reality functions in the sense of quantum observership, or the idea that at the level of subatomic matter, when you apply your perception to that subatomic matter, it changes it. It changes the time field, it changes the activity and behavior and format of that matter. That is very freeing, that is very profound, but Einstein also taught everyone on the Earth's surface that light has a speed, it's the limit, and it cannot be broken. And that is not actually true. It's not true all across the board. It's a distortion. So it's possible to give you a distorted view of reality with a fact. Like I used this example before. Forgive me for being so repetitive, but I can tell you, hey, I'm going to give you a sandwich. And you might look at your watch and think like, oh, it's 12:22. Aurora's about to give me lunch. And then I'm actually saying I'm going to give you a sandwich in 10 years or in 13 billion years. So I told you a truthful fact, but the way I told it and the way you interpreted it was misguiding. It was a misleading fact. So it is possible to do that, and so there are certain circumstances where light goes at what is called the speed of light, and then, yes, there are other things that can go faster than the speed of light. There is an entire realm of beings that exist at that level. So that was more of the bars on the cage, and the E equals mc squared, placing matter and energy in constant dualistic opposition, is also bars on the cage, because matter and energy are two qualities in a spectrum or a continuum of existence that we are placed within. That's the context within which we are. So you're not a physical body that is, sitting in a physical chair with some neurochemistry that makes you think that you're conscious and aware. No, no, no. That's like the most distorted, reductionist view of who and what you are. You are a being connected to the time field. And the time field is this fabric of possibilities and probabilities that surrounds us and interpenetrates us on a cellular level, on a molecular level, on an atomic and subatomic level. It interpenetrates us on the level of time. And this has to do with our consciousness and our awareness. So awareness I define as like the spotlight or the needle on the record player. If the record, I'm talking about like an old-fashioned analog record, like from the 20th century, that you can put songs on. And in order to play the songs, you need to have the stylus or the needle of the record in order to unlock the potential that is stored in the record of the recording. So in exactly the same way, your incarnational experience, your life, has many different possible permutations or iterations, possible combinations of thought and feeling and event and experience and behavior that comprise the record of your life. And at the far periphery, those songs are not very true to your core persona and who you really are. And we spend our entire incarnational existence spiraling closer and closer towards the central spindle with the journey of our awareness, and your awareness being the needle on the record that is playing that spiral song of your life. And I've described this is the time vortex, and we're actually looking at the time vortex from the top down. That's why it looks like a record or a bullseye, and you're spiraling towards the center. If we turned that view on edge and we looked at it from a cutaway viewpoint, it would look like a funnel, like a vortex with two curved sides and a pointy top. And the longest timeline that goes out the pointy top is the ascension timeline. I call it the path of least likelihood because it is the only timeline that exits this level of reality. And it is how you get to stop endlessly circulating, exploring every single possible iteration, and finally get to the next level of perception and freedom. And here is the big kicker. We were born with and designed as an apparatus, a set of higher faculties that are meant to guide us through this reality so that we don't actually have to play every song on the record, because the ones at the periphery are not very good songs. The songs at the periphery of the record are all of the songs where you die. And in some of them, you die a minute after you were born. And in some of them, you die, a week after you were born. And in some of them, you get to 5 years, 10 years, 18 years, whatever. But those are all the songs where you die. And as we begin to activate the higher faculties, so that is unconditional love and everything that rests upon that foundation. And unconditional love is like a tone, la, 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 a beautiful tone, a tone of music that your heart emits when you are embedded in the time field and moving at the right rate. When you are not grasping at the future or clinging to the past, you're moving at exactly the right rate. Like imagine Pac-Man or Ms. Pac-Man is going through the video game eating those little white dots. You are supposed to go through the video game moment by moment eating the little white dots, and your mind is supposed to be moving at a particular rate, or your consciousness or your awareness is supposed to be moving at a particular rate. And you achieve immortality when you move at the right rate in the right direction. It puts you on the right timeline. And this is also a genetic maneuver, because your genes are not just static X-shaped chromosomes. They're not just the way that you reproduce and make little babies. Your genes are the integument that ties together moment to moment, each train car of reality. So you have these moments of reality. If you slice up time down to its tiniest little slice, like we took the pie of time and we sliced it into slices, and we cut those pie slices into the tiniest, tiniest, tiniest molecular slivers that they could be and still be defined as pie, then we tie together those little tiny slivers moment to moment. And this is done with your consciousness. So in the phenomenon of your eyes and vision, the phenomenon is called persistence of vision. And this is what gives rise to animation and film. This is how this was first created. So animation was first created in the form of a zoetrope, and that means wheel of life. It is like a barrel that has slits cut in the side, and primitive animators, like 500 or 600 years ago, would draw a series of movements on like a film strip, comic strip, and put it inside of that barrel and then spin the barrel, and the flickering movement of light coming through the slits at exactly the right rate made it appear as if the object was animating. Or like if you ever did a flip book, very simple animation with the edge of a book or the edge of a little notebook where you draw little stick figures and make it animate by flipping the book. This is what is happening in your brain and your mind and your system of perception. You are looking around at you, at the world, and what you're actually seeing are static moments of time. But you do not perceive them. Pardon me, it's the mail truck. You do not perceive these static moments of time, or little molecular pie slices of the pie of time. You don't perceive them as herky-jerky individual moments. You look around you, and I see a bird flying across the sky, and that looks like one long, smooth movement. You know, I look at my hand moving across my face, and I say that is one long, smooth movement. But that only looks that way because your brain and perception tie together the individuated moments. And this is the phenomenon, you can research this, it's called persistence of vision. And it is the smearing together of moment to moment to create a continuum of motion. And this is how we get film. That film is actually a series of still images that are tied together. It has to be flickering at least 26 frames per second to make it appear to your mind and your eyes and your system of perception as if you are seeing movement. And that phenomenon is you adding another dimension to something that isn't really there. You are adding the dimension of time to what are a series of flat, frozen objects. And this is just like when you look at a sketch, a flat two-dimensional sketch of something like a cube or a sphere, and you know that is a flat piece of paper, but in your mind you are adding the idea that it is a volumetric space that you can actually enter into. So that's the magic of perception. You're looking around you at this world. Not only are you collapsing waveforms, like possibilities and probabilities, into something that can be experienced, but you are actually the filmmaker. You are like the cinematographer, making it appear as if this is actually a moving film, and actually you're creating the reality around you. This is what I mean to say that you are not merely a doormat experiencer here in reality. You're very much an auteur. You're part of the writer, you're part of the narration, you're part of the narrative structure, you know, like the story of what happens to the characters. You're part of the cinematography in the way that you perceive and look around. And so, you know I jumped around a little bit in my presentation here, but a little bit more to just establish what are my values, because I'm here as a walk-in, and people have sometimes a negative connotation, or they are a bit frightful. What does that mean? Who are you? Why are you here? I'm not a body snatcher, and I understand that there are malevolent beings who have done body snatching, and I also understand that there is a huge problem here right now with mind rape or consciousness invaders that go against boundaries. And each one of us should be able to create our boundaries in our life and in our consciousness. We should each be able, just like in your body you have an epidermis, and in your cell you have a cell membrane that individuates you from the environment. You should have a boundary of your consciousness that says, this is who I am, this is what is inside of me, and no one else is allowed to come inside of here and mess around. And that's important, just like in your body. You are the king or queen of your own body. No one else is allowed to come inside of your body and do anything in there without your permission. So no one's allowed to shove food down your throat or forcibly inject you with anything or put anything into any of your orifices or molecules inside of your body that are against your will or not consensual to your choosing. And this gets down to me as the flying rainbow lasagna. So how did I come into this body and what am I doing here? I came into this body when the original inhabitant was attacked with a psychic attack and with a targeted energy weapon that created really a death, an anoxic brain injury, not enough oxygen going to the brain. And I sometimes couch my language and say it was negative entities, but now I can just be a lot more overt and say it was demons, occupiers of the interstices, overtly malevolent, evil beings that use technology that is created by a hijacking of the time field, a hijacking of DNA, a misuse and a distortion and a misapplication of the energy field that we are all submerged within. And that these beings sometimes kill people and then take their life force energy and apply it to their own malevolent plans. And that was the intention with this body, that they were planning on either murdering the occupant of this body, the former occupant, and then installing their own malevolent, consciousness, or, using this body for their own puppetry, or murdering the consciousness of this body and then siphoning off that energy, that life force energy, and using it for their own plans, for their own purposes. Like if someone took the gas out of your gas tank of your car and then used it to drive their own car. So those were the malevolent intentions for the activity that was done to me and this body. And what actually happened was the ego died and the ego was destroyed. And that's the narrative structure, like the temporal sense of self in this body. And the body would have died and decomposed if a miraculous event had not occurred. And the miraculous event was a force field, I call it a force field of grace, that came around all of the physical structures of this body and held it together for a long time. Like, it took a long time to transform into the flying rainbow lasagna. So if that force field hadn't been there, the body would have gotten sick and decomposed and, fallen apart. But it kept everything together like a cosmic glue. But it wasn't really like glue. It was more like a thread that tied everything together, so that I could teach the cells of this body to dance like flying rainbow lasagnas. The flying rainbow lasagna is my own invention or creation, is my own original abstract thought that I created in the language, the interdimensional language. It's the interdimensional language of color, line, shape, form, movement, texture, and tone, tone being musical like la la la. That language I did not invent, and I'm flattered when people look at my artwork or come to my studio and they're like, wow, you invented all of this. And I'm like, no, I perceived it, and I learned that language, and then I applied that language to my own inner expression, and I wrote like a poem or a paragraph in that language that it's called the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And that is my invention that I can take credit for. And it's also similar to a math proof or an aspect of science where it does not come into conflict with anything that has been previously established, any of the patterns of thought or basic factual truths that have been established beforehand. And that's important because if you are doing like a math proof, if there are, let's say 5 rational statements that are made, and your idea is to come up with the 6th rational statement, but it cannot be in conflict with any of the previous statements that have been made and that have been established. So one of the statements that cannot be in conflict with which we cannot be in conflict, much better, is the idea of the singularity or the source. The idea that there is a convergence point, an emanation, a place that all of the timelines emanate from, and a place that all of the timelines return to. And that is what our journey is, that we come from this stellar network, this network of higher dimensional, less dense thought and more highly organized thought, and we come into this level of density where this light is slowed down into the form of physical matter. And that's what food is. In terms of changing your body, one of the big things is changing your conception of food. to understand that all of the solidified food and the solidified matter that we have here is a thought construct. Like, I have an apple tree right here next to me in my beautiful driveway, or in my beautiful field where I'm sitting, and this apple tree all year long sits in the sunshine and it thinks about growing a bunch of apples. And it is a concerted effort. It just doesn't happen willy-nilly. It just doesn't happen by accident. That is that tree's artwork. Just like my artwork is not by accident. It is all very intentional. So that tree sits there very intentionally, consciously creating these beautiful thought forms. And then when I eat that apple, I understand that I am eating the end result of almost a year's worth of thought and energy and willpower and focused intention on the part of this large, beautiful tree. So all of our food is solidified light. All of our food is solidified consciousness. And our multicellular bodies themselves are solidified light and solidified consciousness. And when I first came here, I thought I was only supposed to eat pure light because that's what I'm used to. And I didn't understand that I was in a period of transition and that this body was in a period of transition. And it's been 15 years, too. So I do both. I do eating of physical matter and I do ingestion of sunlight. That's what I'm doing out here in my beautiful sunny field, even in the middle of December like this, end of December like this. That I, through my inner eye, through the higher faculties, I didn't even get to what the higher faculties are. So you have your unconditional love, that is your foundation, and on top of that you have truth and communication, that's the level of your throat. And then on top of that you have your inner eye, and that's at the level of your brow, and it's also the center of Christ consciousness in your body, although it is not associated with the Christian religion or the dogma or teachings of the Christian religion at all. And that's not the end of the journey. You have one more step on the ladder to reach completion. That is the crown, or the very top of your head, at the top where you part your hair or your scalp. That is the connection to the stellar network, to God, to the source, to higher consciousness that is less dense and more organized than what we are here in the denser material realm. And it's because when we come into the material realm, the light slows down and we get a lot more filler. And it's just like if you slow down an audio tape, and then it sounds distorted. That is what we are experiencing in the realm of matter. And that is also what is experienced in the necessary iterations of the time field of your individual incarnation. So I'm not even speaking about reincarnation between many incarnations. I'm talking about the process of refinement that happens in the song of your life within this one life. That you wouldn't have to play every single song if you had your inner vision. If you had your third eye or your inner eye unfettered and able to see clearly, there's no reason at all for you to have to ever hit the membrane of death. You don't have to explore all of those boring songs where you die over and over and over through disease or accident or murder or whatever. It's called being on the wrong timeline. So you can be a perfectly healthy person eating all sorts of salad and kale and drinking apple cider vinegar, and if you stand in the middle of a 6-lane highway at the wrong time, then you will no longer have your life, because even though your body was healthful and your health habits were good, you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. So now, as we are becoming multidimensional perceptive beings, we understand that survival is not just about getting enough food, getting enough shelter, the basic, building blocks of having a body sustained. It is about being on the right timeline, because there are many, many timelines where you can have a house, you can have shelter, and you can have food, but you're not in the right format, and it will end in your demise. It's dead end, because you're not supposed to be exploring those experiences in reality. There are a narrow set of experiences that each one of us is actually supposed to be here exploring and experiencing. And so when I say conform to these patterns, I do not find it to be like a straitjacket or limiting in any way. It's To me, it feels freeing. And if you check out my artwork, you can look, the best way is go to flyingrainbowlasagne.com and just click on art. And you can see my artwork is very symmetrical. It's patterns, and those patterns do not feel like a chore to me at all. When I first came into this body, I thought I was supposed to eat nothing but pure sunlight, and all I wanted to do was draw patterns, and I did them all freehand. And I drew these complex patterns, and I did that for many years while I was organizing my neurology. And at a certain point, I realized that if I wanted to really express what I was seeing inside with my inner vision, out here, like as a drawing or as a painting, I was going to have to get tools like circle templates and protractors and, draw with a ruler. I was going to have to stop just winging it freehand and really learn the patterns. And I did that. And that, blossomed into the artwork that you now see when you see those complex paintings. When I make my paintings or my drawings, I don't say, oh no, boo-hoo, I have to use this circle template. I have to make a perfect circle. This is so constraining. I'm so limited. I don't think that at all. Or, oh, I'm using a ruler to draw a straight line. Woe is me. I don't think that at all. I think, oh, hooray, I need to connect this point to this point with a straight line, and I have the tool to do it. Or I need to make a circle that's a perfect circle of this size, and I have what I need to do it. And I find that when I make paintings and drawings in that pattern, it feels good and right and pleases me. And so it's not something that I'm like, it's a chore at all. That is also analogous to my life. If I eat food, I'm eating good, healthy food. I eat things other than kale. Believe me, I eat, good, yummy stuff. But I don't eat sugar and I don't eat processed foods. And I have to take good care of myself because of, the things that do not help my neurology, because there are some neurological artifacts from the brain damage of being in this body. And so I deal with epilepsy, and I use high CBD cannabis in order to mitigate those symptoms. And I also found that eating certain foods totally does not help my body. So I do not eat caffeine, and I don't eat most grains, and I don't eat sugar, and I don't eat a lot of things that are like free, available carbohydrates, because I found out that is just not right for my particular body structure. So one of those things is, I'm in transition. I have to love myself and love my body. If I were a total hard ass and I said, no, it can only be this, this formal orthodox approach to reality, like, it is not comfortable and it is not loving. It is loving to say we are all in transition along with the planet. And during this time, you have to take care of your physical cellular structure and your non-physical, non-cellular structure, or your light body. Both of these things need to be fed. So you feed your physical body with physical food, light that is going slower than the speed of light. And you feed your ideas, your consciousness body, your light body with light and with energy and with thoughts and ideas. So, I joke that I am beaming out the sonic equivalent of the sunlight that I'm ingesting in this beautiful sunny field right now. But it's not really a joke. I mean, I'm telling the truth, that I am translating this beautiful light photonic energy into a format that can be expressed through the flapping of my moving mouth parts and sent out to all of you. So one of the things that I was bringing to mind is how to eat. It is not just smashing up molecules with your moving mouth parts and then sticking them in the cauldron of your belly. That, just like the tree is not slacking when it is making those apples, it's intending them. It is consciously growing those apples. We can consciously consume an apple. We can consciously eat it and take the nutrients of that food and put it into our body where it needs to be. And it is an act of will and an act of intention, and it is best done through focused awareness. So I do not recommend eating in a distracted state, like eating when you're reading a book or watching TV or looking at something on the internet or doing anything other than eating. And that is a huge challenge, because most people in this time and place only eat in a distracted manner, and that's the antithesis of growing your awareness. So one of the things that I do is I really focus on my food when I'm eating. Focus on the texture of it. Remind yourself that you will not always have a physical tongue with physical taste buds to taste this construct of food. Save it as as a recording of the analog experience of being here in this reality for a time when you will not have a body, when you will transcend the physical reality. So enjoy, whatever treats and tidbits you eat, chocolates and good stuff, or whatever nourishing food you eat. Like when I eat my nourishing food, like, man, I love avocados. And when I eat them, I'm like, this is so good. And you can talk to your food. You can thank it. You can say thank you to the avocado tree that gave me one of its reproductive organs so that I can eat. I eat meat, and I thank the animals, even though they are dead. I thank them for their muscle fibers that I put into my body that allow me to have active muscle fibers and to have good energy and to be alive. I thank the planet while I'm eating. And you don't have to necessarily say it verbally with words, but you can say it with your intention. And one of the big things is sending those nutrients intentfully to the areas of your body that need it, and not, to areas where it is being stored as excess fat. So you need to consciously intend for your food to go to your muscles and for your body to be shaped in the way that it is supposed to be. This is what I mean when I say you're an artist of reality and you begin with your own body. You begin by using the paintbrush of your imagination or your higher faculties to intend for your body to be in a state of health and vitality and athleticism. We all have inside of us this potential to be like an Olympic athlete, but not all of us rise to or cultivate that potential, and that it's a genetic potential. That's like saying it's written into you, it's on the record of your life. All you need to do is play that song. But you might be on a different song that's far out on the periphery. So now let's talk about, how do we change the song of our life? How do we choose a better song? So you do that by taking the needle of your awareness, your focus of your attention, and placing it where you desire. And that sounds very simplistic. That's like saying, if you're a personal trainer, well, the way that you get strong is by, just lift up a weight, and then, you just move your arm like this, just, a lot. And it's the truth. That's the abstract truth of how you get strong. But then there are specific actual exercises that you can do. So how do you change your life, or how do you go onto the pathway that you wish to be on? And part of it is a software program. And when I use these words, software program or organic computer, I'm not a transhumanist. Again, just reiterating that for everyone and establishing who I am. I'm not here to tell you that you need to have a bunch of microchips in your brain in order to reach your highest potential. Far from it. You use the steering wheel of your consciousness, and that is the inner aperture known as your third eye. And that is supposed to be like the steering wheel, and it's supposed to be steered by your connection to higher consciousness, the crown up there on the top of your head. And that those two aspects of self, like the heart and lungs that act within your chest, as your circulatory and breathing system, the crown and brow act together in your higher faculties to make it possible for you to navigate reality consciously. And that's what I'm trying to say, that if you can navigate reality consciously, why would you ever be on any timeline where you have disease, or where you are endangered, or where you don't have enough of the basic stuff that you need to be alive and happy? You wouldn't. All of that has happened because of a genetic degradation and energetic or perception degradation. And that is why you as an individual and humanity, Earth surface culture as a whole, is in the unpleasant circumstances that you are all in, that we are all in. And it is why I am here as a flying rainbow lasagna. I say I'm the first one, but I'm not the only one, and I'm really trying to encourage everyone else to start dancing like flying rainbow lasagnas. And you do that with your genes. Your genes are always dancing. So, you can change timelines by using your higher faculties. But everybody's higher faculties, they've been cut off or diminished. It's hard to even get them going. The way that you can get them going is by using the flying rainbow lasagna. This is a tool. I said it was like a poem in this higher dimensional language. It is, because it's a creative expression, it's also a tool that you can apply to your energy field. So you have that basic convergence point, or the source, or the place that emanates everything and the place that everything converges on. And in order to flying rainbow lasagna on a genetic level, on a cellular level, and on the level of your timelines, your energy field around your body, what you need to do is vibrate that singularity in a higher dimensional context. And that means that you place your bubble of time, your, time vortex and the energy centers of your body in a context. You're not just a lone person swimming around in your kiddie pool, cut off from the rest of reality. You are in a context. So we went up the ladder from being a bunch of undifferentiated cellular goo towards getting a cell membrane, and then all of a sudden you're differentiated and you're a unicellular organism, and you said, hey, I only care about what's inside of my cell membrane, and I don't care about what's outside my context at all. I'm looking out for number one, and, screw you. And then you learn to be a multicellular organism, where all of these cells work together, and they're held together by a consciousness. Consciousness is like the ego, the narrative structure that says, hi, I'm like the owner of this company, and I'm the boss, and you all listen to me, and you don't fight, and you all work together. And that's a pretty important thing to understand, that the individuated cells of your body, they are, yes, beholden only to themselves in the sense of their own cellular metabolism, and they also understand they are embedded within a context. And a cell does not simply take all of the nutrients that are available at the expense of its neighbors, because it understands all of those neighbors also need to eat too. And a cell that takes all of the available nutrients at the expense of its neighbors is known as a diseased cell or a cancer cell. And in order for individual humans and human society as a collective whole to reach the next level of evolution, the next level of experience, to exit the wormhole and get to the next level of reality, everybody has to stop acting as if they are an individuated cell that is not beholden to the rest of the organism that we are within. Because we are within the planet, we are within the context of humanity and human culture, we are within the economy. So, when you are part of the economy, you have to take responsibility. If you shop at the dollar store that sells candles that are made by slave labor in China, and so that you can buy some, cheap tea lights or whatever, have to understand that that action is having an impact on the economy, and it's having an impact on the lives of other humans, and that's just, a very small example of the way that all of our lives are intertwined. So our lives are also intertwined on the level of time and consciousness. And this has everything to do with the way that the fabric of time is woven together. To understand, just like the way that your purchases in the economy have a ripple effect, your decisions in life, in your own time field, have an impact on other people's lives, other people's decisions, and on the overall structure of the time field. And the time field is a living organism. It's not just like a dead piece of fabric where you can cut a thread and move it over here and do whatever you want. It's a living thing, like, a garden or an ecosystem. And it's like a living embroidery that is three-dimensional. So in order for this structure to be viable and to be sustainable, everything has to do its part. Just like I'm here in this beautiful ecosystem, so I'm looking at the grass. In order for the grass to be alive, the microbiome needs to be alive. These are all of the microbial, one-celled animals that liberate the mineral realm to be available to the plant kingdom. And without the beautiful microbiome, none of this life would be able to exist. It's a symphony, and they're all working together. So now we need to understand, in terms of consciousness, you are a musician in a symphony. And staying alive does not just mean, we do not merely define staying alive as you getting enough caloric nutrients to keep your body alive and having a shelter so that you do not lose too much body heat and die of hypothermia. That you being alive also has to do with your social context. Who are you surrounded by? Who do you speak to during the day? Where do you get your resources from? Resources can mean income, like I get my money and then I go to the grocery store and get my groceries, or resources can mean, you get your water from a water well, or you get your fish from a stream, or you fish them, literally fish them out with a fishing line. So what is the context, and how are you beholden to the context? Because if you allow strip mining in your area that poisons the stream where you are supposed to go and get your fish, then you now understand that you don't get to eat that food. Now, in our world, very few people in our industrialized Western world here in America live off the land, and so there's very little accountability about that. But most people sense that their food comes from their paycheck. and yet they do not understand the responsibility that they have in terms of supporting the economy so that they can continue to have a paycheck. And this is part of it's like saying you could buy a candle from a local candle maker that might cost 3 times what, the cheap imported candle costs, but you would actually be helping a local proprietor to stay in business. And that because a lot of people have been only thinking of themselves as a one-celled organism and not recognizing that they are also connected to all of the other one-celled organisms and you're actually in a giant body, that this entire body has become diseased. So now to reach the next level of organization and, let's say, being excellent, excellence, in order to reach the next level of organization and excellence, it is necessary for humans on Earth's surface to collaborate with each other as if they are cells in a larger body, and to stop competing with one another as if they are enemies. If the healthy cells of your own body fight and consume one another, it is called an autoimmune disease. It is considered a very bad thing to be going on. And yet here in this world, the definition of capitalism involves, fighting amongst competitors, and that is considered to be a good thing. And we can no longer sustain that type of mindset, that type of approach. So, so many directions I'd like to go in with that, because I'm not the only person that is speaking about this. There's an excellent evolutionary biologist named Bruce Lipton that also speaks about how right now humanity is really acting suicidally, as a collective whole, and that in order to no longer be suicidal, what we need to do is model our economic stance on the plant and animal kingdom. Like if you look at a beautiful field of wildflowers and other grasses and things like that, old-fashioned Darwin says, they're all fighting. All of the plants are fighting. They're fighting for nutrients. They're fighting for sunlight. They're fighting for supremacy. And that was totally false. It was a viewpoint that was colored by the Victorian mindset and the idea that if you're a good person, you work hard and God favors you and you get a whole bunch of money. And if you're a lazy person, then you don't work hard and then you don't have a lot of money and then you belong in the gutter where you are. And this, of course, was totally a distortion and a fallacy, and it was used in order to justify huge social iniquity. So we're here in this world now where we still have the same huge social iniquity. Literally, we have people that sleep in a gutter. We have people that do not have a home. They do not have a place to avoid hypothermia, and they do not have enough basic calories for their bodies to continue to be alive. And we have at the same time people with huge surpluses of finance into the millions and billions. And that is, if we look at the overarching social structure, a diseased body. It's not a healthy body. And it is so diseased at this point that we cannot continue onward in these health habits. Just like at a certain point, like a tobacco smoker gets so sick that they go to the doctor says, you cannot smoke one more pack of tobacco because you are gonna die. This is what humanity needs to recognize, and what many of us are recognizing at this time, that in order to not die, like not die as a human culture, not die as a collective, everybody needs to begin working together. And that means, like in your body, all of your cells need to be fed. It's not okay if your heart cells are not getting enough oxygen, and that's so that, your pinky toe cell can get enough oxygen, then you are going to die, because your heart is very, very important. But you can't give all of the oxygen to your heart cells and none of the oxygen to your pinky toe cells, because then your pinky toe cells will die, and that will be very bad for your feet. So everybody in your body needs to get enough. Everybody in your economy and in your culture needs to get enough. And this means the basic foundation values of human behavior and expectation of reality has to change. So I'm not advocating some kind of totalitarian state in any way, because I know when I talk about conformity and I talk about a hive mind, that everyone here is used to a totalitarian state, a fascist state rather, where you lose your freedom and you have to give up all of your labor and all of your personal ownership to a state run entity. And this is not what I'm advocating at all. I'm actually advocating that each one of us is our own divine guide, that each one of us has our own direct connection to consciousness and to the stellar network and to, what would be defined as God or the source, or each one of us is literate as to the musical score of the cosmos. That you don't have to have a priest or a guru or someone outside of yourself telling you, go here, say these words, do this, and you'll have a good life. That you can sense those things on an interior level. So I'm an artist, I'm a visual artist. What I do with my time when I'm not flapping my moving mouth parts here on the radio, sitting in a field, and I follow my inner directive. I don't have an external boss who tells me, paint something purple today, or who tells me, paint a circle that is 1.68 inches in diameter. And I tell myself what I need to be doing, and I tell it to myself based upon my own inner directive. And I know I'm not alone in this. I know that there are many other artists and, creative people, musicians and poets and writers, and people who approach their life as, a creative act where an external boss or an external authority figure does not tell them what to do. And I know it's very challenging because in the economy, the way that it has been structured up until this point, like the Victorian ideal, you are a good person, quote unquote, if you work for the market, if you work for the economy, if you work for society. If you do a job that society wants you to do, you get paid. Hey, we need a ditch dug over here. Come over here and do it, and we'll give you this money. If you just dig a ditch any old place, you ain't going to get paid. You have to dig a ditch in the prescribed place at the prescribed time for the right person, then you get paid. And that is all a subverting of your will, a subverting of your creative act, a subverting of your freedom, a subverting of the genetic mechanism that ties you from moment to moment. Because as soon as we enter into this quid pro quo where you do this for me and then I give this to you, that controls your trajectory through time. You're no longer making your own choices based upon your own inner directive or based upon your higher faculties. You are doing what you need to do to get the money that you need to go to the grocery store and buy the food to stay alive. And that is the domestication process of the modern human. That in another time and place, humans would be like, oh, I need some food, I'm going to get it. I get a fish out of the river. I grow some food here in my garden. I get water from my well. At a certain point, that was changed. And, not only in recent time, I'm talking about in an ancient time, that humanity went from being like a subsistence farmer and very rural and very spread out to being sedentary and concentrated in a city, and to have a different approach to getting resources. That getting resources was no longer about working with the seasons and the natural cycles of life. That getting money was now about serving an earthly master. Think about a person who might have been a scribe, in an ancient realm. They are not a subsistence farmer. They do not have to make sure that they grow their garden the best way according to the natural world, and then they'll have the juiciest tomatoes, and they'll have the most calories and stay alive. A scribe has to please their earthly master. They have to make their letters perfectly formed, otherwise their master won't pay them. Or they have to make their letters at the right time. Like if you want it on Tuesday and I give it to you on Wednesday, you ain't going to get paid. You have to do it at the right time. That is the domestication process of humanity. It is taking you out of being embedded in the natural cycles that would ordinarily inform your decision-making processes and where you get your resources from, and instead installing or introducing the new variable of an intermediary that is a boss. And your boss in this day and age is like, your boss at work. But in another day and age, it was a king. The king told you what to do, or the tribal leader told you what to do, or the, government structure told you what to do. And so in this time and place, it is the corporation that you work for that is like the government structure that is telling you what to do. And all of this is, I keep using that word, subverting. Sorry about the cars driving by in my field, my driveway. At the end of Atlantis, about between 10 and 20,000 years ago, when things were really going to shit, pardon my French, what really caused everything to head south was a subverting of the collective will. That consciousness invaders came and they took people who were pure artists, who only did what they needed to do based upon their inner directive and their own guidance and connection to the stellar network, and took them and really transformed them into puppets. Slavery so profound that those people who were enslaved could not even think the thought, I am a slave. And it was all done through a type of sophisticated technology, It's the type of technology that is currently being used on Earth's surface. It's called dark magic. What is magic is actually a sophisticated form of technology that comes from a space race that uses technology, and they're not nice people, and they are called Satan. Yes, so when I say the word Satan or satanic technology, I'm talking about a particular race of beings that does not originate on this planet, and that uses the training wheels of technology to get off of their own planet and fly around. Because here's the deal. There are fail-safe mechanisms that were programmed into this world by the great composer, who is very, very wise and loving and smart, and said, look, if you need a clank metal spaceship to get off the surface of your planet and go pollinate other planets with your ideas, you ain't ready to get off the surface yet. You ain't ready. You are not developed enough. You are not sensitive enough. You are not emotionally prepared to be a good partner. It's like, in order to be a good partner in life, like an adult, loving partner, you have to be able to respect the other person. You have to respect boundaries. You have to be able to communicate. You have to do all of this inner work and inner development to be the person that can be in a loving partnership with the other person. And in terms of interacting with beings that come from far away, like I can use myself as an example, like I'm a loving partner. So I didn't come here into this body like a body snatcher. I came in as a consensual inhabitant, and the genetic movement that I do with this body, the flying rainbow lasagna oscillation, I do that with this body, and I do it with whatever consensual dance partners present themselves and are here. So this means I know that I'm affecting everyone here. Each one of us is. When we send out our song, when you're singing your song of your life, you're affecting everyone around you. You're a part of the time field. That is life. You cannot be here without being a part of the time field. And if you have integrity, then you try to give good influence to the time field. Like if you're in the band, you want to play the right notes, you want to play on the beat, you want to add to the music. You certainly don't want to detract from the music, like someone else is playing a beautiful, perfect solo on the beat, and you don't want to be a drummer who is distracting them and playing the wrong notes at the wrong time. And this is what I'm talking about, like when we are taking responsibility and when we recognize that we are part of a time collective, and you're not just in your own private kiddie pool, and the things that you do and the things that you say actually have an impact on others. So I'm very consciously aware, keenly aware that what I do and say and what I emit with my genes connects with and has an impact on a lot of other people. And it's even if they're not liking my song, they're being influenced by my song. And I try to focus on connecting with the people that are consensual. And they say, Aurora, we love lasagna. We love these thoughts. We love these ideas. We love this energy. And to have that mutual, joy, that mutual collaboration, and to dance in partnership, and that's how this transformation and birth process is going on this planet. And it's not just me, that there's this entire stellar network that is interacting with and communicating with the human genome on Earth. So I like to say what we are doing here on Earth right now, we are like in a little petri dish. We're kind of encapsulated. We're not really fully connected to the rest of the galaxy and the rest of the cosmos. And the work that we are doing here in cultivating our own consciousness and in coming up with an antidote to this satanic technology is profound, because that antidote can then be taken from here and applied everywhere to other situations. This isn't the only planet that has ever been attacked and infested with satanic technology. So this body that I'm in was attacked by this satanic technology. And instead of dying, and instead of becoming evil or, becoming corrupt and being taken over by the satanic network, this body and me, my consciousness, awareness, Aurora, vibrated in the shape of a flying rainbow lasagna. And that meant that this body didn't die, and it meant that I'm not evil. This is a big distinction, because I understand now I'm having to make a distinction from myself apart from body snatchers who are evil, because I'm not evil. And I really hope that you can not only sense, from my voice and from my persona, but also from concrete things in my actions. Like, if I wanted to, I could have taken the flying rainbow lasagna and kept it for myself and said, oh, cool, like, I'll have all of these wonderful expanded perceptions and opportunities, but I'm not going to share it with anyone else. Or I could have said, I'll only share it with anyone else, but only if they give me $1 billion. You got to be a really rich person to learn about this. It's a secret. It's a spiritual secret. It's only for me and rich people. And I didn't do that. And I also didn't patent it. I could have said, okay, we're going to patent this and sell it like as a monthly subscription service. If you want a flying rainbow lasagna, you're going to have to pay your dues to me, $5 every month, and then you get to do this. And I didn't do that either. In fact, what I do is send out quite a few free coupon codes to people, even when they don't have the money to actually participate in my online class. I have given out the free login so that people can still access this information. I'm pretty much the opposite of a cutthroat profiteer. And I mean, if I were more of a profiteer, then I probably would have gotten better computer equipment much faster. And I also would have demonstrated that I don't have integrity. So I really hope that everyone who's listening to this, you're understanding by my actions that I believe in unconditional love, that I believe in freedom for everyone, that I am here as like a musician in the band, not as an overlord oppressor, and I am here to inspire everyone to be the best possible musician that you can be, because I want to play with other good musicians. I don't want to just jam in my own garage with no one else around. I want to play with other good musicians. So please take the Flying Rainbow Lasagna and apply it to your own DNA. Please become a virtuoso of your own genetic instrument, and please continue to join me as we give birth to a new dimension. Thank you.